People are going to feel more empowered to speak up when it happens. Is sexual assault and rape and all of these things still going to happen? Yes, it's going to happen because it's human nature, and people are still going to be assaulted, and things are going to, we're not going to live in this perfect society where everybody's going to get along and, we're going to have no crime and no rape and, everything's going to be perfect and we're going to live in harmony. Let's be realistic. That's never going to happen.
This is TMI with your host, Dave Archer.
Okay, so the three hits are Song on the Radio, Time Passages.
Time Passages. Yeah, that's...
Year of the Cat. But if you listen to it, it's one of these albums that was like, I think it was given to one of these production houses that do that whole wall of sound.
Yeah.
I think it was a famous producer picked him up for one or two albums. Of course, the album hits number 1 or 3 or something on the planet. All you hear at every radio station are these Al Stewart songs.
Heavy rotation.
Oh, yeah. But the intros, it was in this sort of phase in 70s music where the intros were outrageous. They were long and really good. Even some Rod Stewart intros are really awesome.
Didn't we talk about this, the cataloging and the professionalism of being of having those long drawn out intros that you could talk over and have the DJ drop out at exactly the right time.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm sure there's a correlation, kind of you have the long lead in so people can talk over.
And it really was during the period where FM was defining itself.
Sure.
Whatever it was going to become. And yeah. So
you remember a song called Gold? I think Gold by a guy named Jon Stewart. I had to actually listen to it again in case it was TV's Jon Stewart, but of course it wasn't.
No.
You'd recognize it, I'm sure. It had Stevie Nicks singing backup vocals. When the lights go down in a California town, people are in for the evening. It's kind of a song to which you could chugle, and it's always nice to have chugling tunes.
What is chugling?
Chugling is if you can imagine yourself being just slightly lubricated, and if you had an internal soundtrack and you were just kind of you weren't necessarily just kind of like bopping down the street, but you had a rhythm, right? That's what I imagine chugling is. It's just easing on down the road.
When you say imagine, is this because this is one of your words?
No. Chugling is I think it's a Grateful Dead idea.
Not exactly a literary source.
No, but it is it's like a Mr. Natural and R. Crumb. It's chugling is a state of mind, I think. You know those like R. Crumb posters that had kind of people easing on down the road where the foot was one foot was stuck way out in front. It was like the perspective was that is chugling, right? Kind of. They certainly had an internal, if not dialogue, then they had a soundtrack.
Right.
So chugling is a good thing.
Does this happen to you? You get a song stuck in your head and then you're really a victim of it for sometimes a day, but actually sometimes 5 days.
I have had, sadly, my mind is antithetical to my peace of mind, because the songs that I generally hold on to are songs that I detest.
Right.
And specifically...
Like We Built This City.
No, I don't mind that so much. The one that that has gotten stuck in my psychic craw for 30 years "You Sexy Thing" by Hot Chocolate. I just
Oh.
I
I
and,
Believe in Miracles?
yes.
Wow, what a great song. How
I
can you
know.
not like that?
I can't stand the guy's voice.
Ah.
Kind of it just it if there was such a thing as having a last nerve, it would play on that last nerve. It just I don't get it. I don't understand the appeal. I mean, maybe if they had a different vocalist, it's not a bad song, but I just can't get. I think maybe because I spend more of my emotional currency on listening than I do.
How about Marvin Gaye?
Well, there's nothing. If they swapped out Marvin Gaye for the vocals on "You Sexy Thing," I probably would like that song.
But what do you think of Marvin Gaye? Because
I think Marvin Gaye is with the Angels, and it's where he belongs. I think he's an absolutely remarkable vocalist.
Yeah.
I can't think of anything that I have.
Lionel Richie. I'm just trying to think of vocalists that sound like.
Oh, there's something reedy and kind of like
Cheap?
well, no. If you had to create a voice that sounded like okay, that kid is going through puberty just at this particular moment, his voice is cracking, and if you tried to turn a vocal like a singing voice out of that kind of that wobbly, unstable.
Okay.
That's to my mind, that's what it sounds like.
Okay. So what about, of course, I don't know what it is about hitting the record button. You start forgetting every possible. The Letter, Joe Cocker.
Oh.
So, I mean, these are voices. I was sort of thinking about this the other day that I don't like the perfect voices. Like Ella Fitzgerald is almost too perfect. It's like I want the raspy, damaged, scarred.
Marianne
Raspy.
Faithfull. You prefer Marianne?
Yeah.
I like to look at Marianne Faithfull from the '60s, but she certainly became more interesting to listen to in the '80s.
Like nodules.
Yeah.
That's what I think of when I hear these. But so Joe Cocker is an obvious example, or Bob Dylan isn't known for the smoothest vocals. Although one of his songs is very smooth. The
Lay Lady Lay.
Yeah.
Yeah. See, I remember having a protracted argument with Marvin and Elizabeth about the fact that was not Bob Dylan. That was Mac Davis. I was certain that it was Mac Davis because it just. There was something. It to this day, it doesn't sound to me like that nasally kind of twangy.
Well, this could be a bit. I think Gilbert Gottfried actually has a normal sounding voice. But what we hear is, the Aflac.
Sure.
That crazy over the top is his shtick and has been for so long.
But you don't know that, do you? I mean, he can't obviously. I don't think he can.
I thought I heard a sound clip of him having a business phone call, and he spoke like a normal human being.
But how would you know that it was Gilbert Gottfried?
I know. I could be manipulated by a bit.
No, well, I think I think he might have accentuated or exacerbated his natural tendencies to sound, like whatever. But I've never heard him sound anything like that. But I don't.
I am becoming more and more a fan of Gilbert Gottfried every day. I mean, there's a new documentary out about him, but most of these comedy documentaries you watch, that they have him as a guest. Like in the comedy community amongst comedians, he is literally an authority.
Because there's not too many people. He's fast becoming an elder statesman.
Oh yeah.
Right. I mean, especially now that you've gotten all these people, I think, who will be laid low by the.
Well, he has the memory of a savant.
Yeah, but he's also been around in the back and.
He's like 60 something. I think he's He's in his mid to late 60s, if I'm not mistaken. So he's been around, and he's been doing it since he was quite young.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I wonder, for some reason, I think he's not going to be one of the people who is going to be getting accused of disrobing in hotel rooms in front of fans and, kind of, excuse me, do you mind if I show you my dick? Well, we didn't say no.
Most of his podcast is pointing out stories of, like, Cesar Romero having young boys throw tangerines at his behind, and I mean that kind of thing. So it would be.
Hold on a second.
Yeah, during one of his episodes of Gilbert Gottfried's Amazing Colossal podcast, which I think is probably one of the 1, 2, or 3 best podcasts out there. He has these old guests, often in their 70s, 80s, and 90s, and they're trying to fish up the weird and twisted stories. And so, in the time of Batman, apparently that's one of the rumors, that he had a peculiar,
But I'm not clear on what you said. It sounded like you said Cesar Romero had young boys throw tangerines at his behind?
At his ass, yeah.
Okay,
it's weird. I mean, who knows? But that's the kind of shit you hear on Gilbert Gottfried's Amazing Colossal podcast. But apparently the documentary, which is coming out now about him, focuses a lot on his family life and kids, and that he's a normal, healthy.
Well, that I think I can't unring that bell. I can't. Now was the Riddler or the Joker that he played?
Joker, I believe.
Having young boys throw tangerines at his behind. That's I
mean that kind of thing. But that's one of the stories. They tell it once every 3 episodes. It's a recurring.
I will have to listen. Well, that's if you could render that down into a soundbite.
Now, I have to get to this because I get to this on just about every one of my podcasts. You worked with Cesar Romero.
Yeah.
Okay. The joke of
Watch it, Frankie. Okay.
Here's the story I heard about Cesar Romero, legendary song and dance man and Latin lover, that in person he was gay, and to quote Jerry Seinfeld, not that there's anything wrong with that. But the story that I heard was that he would gather like these young boy toys around him, and he'd pull down his pants and underwear and have them all fling orange wedges at his ass.
I wish you could see Frankie Avalon's face, folks.
Now, but, I had heard that he was gay. I never saw anything at all. Never saw any young toys around.
Yes.
Nothing like that. As a matter of fact, we went to a strip joint one time with Arnold Stang.
You buried the lead, Frankie.
Yeah.
A strip joint with Cesar Romero and Arnold Stang.
But is it true that half of the budget of that movie went to buying citrus fruit?
Makes sense.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think that comedy is one of the most subjective of our tastes.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Like cooking. It's similar in that you take an incredibly complex things, and depending on how the order in which you compile them and the amount of time and attention to that process, comes out with something. You can have someone repeat the same words in the same order, and it's going to be a completely different experience. You, me, Marv, anyone we know, right? If they don't have the stride and the sense of timing and the facial expressions, the body language, it's all part of the recipe.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
It's funny. So no matter what joke I steal, if I deliver it, it's not funny.
Well,
it's amazing.
your energy is. I was thinking about this. Kind of. You have a kind of who's that guy? The Stephen. The
Not Stephen Wright.
Yes. Yeah. Don't sound so disappointed. You have a monotone, deadpan kind of delivery that maybe it's.
Well, I had recently concluded it was because the only people I try that kind of thing on are people who know me, and they just won't give me the laugh on principle.
There. I gave you a laugh. You can insert that at any time you need. Break, kind of upon when required. Use as necessary. I think that's probably not the case. I think you're. I don't know. I think your wheelhouse is more laid back and more kind of straight man. I think you're more the setup.
Yeah.
I think.
Are you one of these people who can't list all of Louis C.K.'s recent productions? Like you Baskets, Horace and Pete, his recent appearance on SNL.
He was in Baskets?
That's his creation.
No, that's Louis Anderson.
Louis Anderson plays the mother of Galifianakis, who plays twins.
But Louis C.K.
That's his.
See, that's the reason that's the reason I started. I watched the little bit that I did of Baskets because Marvin was saying Louis C.K. was the mother.
No.
And I thought, oh my God, I got to see that, right? But
it's his creation.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that.
It's so. What I'm really getting at is I'm trying to play the victim in this whole Louis C.K. thing. Like he sold out the ACC. He was on SNL and played really creepy characters with awkward close-ups and did his thing.
Yeah.
And the Horace and Pete, the Baskets. I wasn't really ever into Louis. I think it was a show that ran a few seasons and another one he did, but that's not, that family stuff just isn't the angle that I'm interested in.
He's not Bob Newhart.
Yeah.
I want to see him up there in his baggy T-shirts, looking like a Russian cab driver, and telling me, like they said. I mean, he's a guy that tells stories about what a creepy dude he is, and it's not surprising that he's actually a creepy guy, right? Because he looks like someone that would come in from another room without his clothes on. Now I suspect I would have thought he would have been just removing the pants as opposed to, he looks like the kind of guy that would want to leave his T-shirt on while he has sex. So,
this is an interesting minefield because, I was half joking saying I'm the real victim because I lose out on the future enjoyment of his product. Because, every single, whole list of some 7 organizations have immediately cut ties with him.
Oh, did they really?
He's been dropped by, you can just name it, and they've dropped him.
It was, I know there was movies and TV shows and stuff, but I think the movie, I don't know this for a fact, but there was a really creepy bit he did on SNL where he played like a soda jerk. In kind of like an Archie Riverdale kind of thing where he was just kind of hitting on one of the girls and just kind of, oh, you're my girlfriend, and it was kind of creepy, and that seemed to be what they were making the movie out of, which that didn't deserve to be made in the first place. Poor taste and creeping factor.
Well, one of the things that adds sort of an element of suspense to all of this is that at least his last project, he was all in the media talking about how nervous he was because he had sunk his own money into it. He seems to sink his own money into these things. So if you make a movie and then cancel its, like pre-opening, with 1 week away from its actual opening, is he going to be homeless? Is this this could ruin him?
Is there no completion bond kind of? There must be some kind of insurance thing, but I mean, it probably doesn't apply to like morals clauses and stuff like that, right? I mean, if you complete the movie but then lose distribution because of public response to
Yeah, but if you sink your own money into it,
yeah. Well, that certainly would be a shame. I mean,
I'm just saying, who knows? He could kill himself. He could be depressed. This could be the end. He could stop being funny. He could. Okay, Pee Wee Herman jerking off in the movie theater. That had an incredible effect on his career.
Yeah. But he was a creepy little dude, and who the hell cares? It's not like he was doing it in public.
He was.
I mean,
it was in a movie theater.
If he was jerking off on a bus.
Right.
But if he's in a porno theater, for God's sakes, right?
So the story is that the two girls in the main episode of this scandal, it's a comedy troupe. They're grown-up comedians. Mm-hmm. They giggle and hold each other while this occurs. So somebody sort of suggested, Louis C.K. is a bit of a scumbag, so apparently he goes to strip clubs and stuff. And apparently, if you're familiar with VIP, that was a stupid way to word it, for people who commonly go to strip clubs and do the VIP thing once or twice a week, it might be normalized after 5 or 10 years of that behavior. So if you think about it, if two grown women go up to, and everybody's probably drunk or high, go up to a man's apartment or hotel room, and then they, play along, giggle and hold each other in horror, it's kind of like what you would think would happen in a VIP room. Like that's what you're morally normalized to socially. There's some parallels between. Anyway, so the joke sort of is why did they have to stay till he finished?
And Nancy made a good point about that particular story. Mm-hmm. She was raising some questions about the way in which they responded. They said he showed up without his clothes on, and he showed us.
I thought they went to his apartment, but I don't know.
Well, they went. Well, they went. I thought they went up to the hotel room after a show. Uh-huh. And first of all, it would be different if there was one person alone, because that's different. But if there's two people, they're adults. Right. It's 15 years ago, right? Louis C.K. was, I don't know how big he was, how important he was, but he probably was still ascendant at that time. But there's two adult women, and they said he asked if we could show us, if he could show us his dick, and we didn't say yes. Okay. So Nancy's point was, what did they say? Right? They didn't say, kind of, they might have said, kind of, go on, kind of put that away, or they kind of laughed it off.
But the difference between him and Harvey Weinstein is that apparently Louis C.K. wasn't blocking the door.
Yeah, Harvey Weinstein is legit,
right?
A monster and should do prison time. Yeah. I'm sure there's hundreds and hundreds of people out there. Sounds like this guy Benjamin Ratner should do prison time as well. I'm not even unconvinced that Kevin Spacey's not a predator, but then that's
okay. What about the Judge Moore?
Oh, well, he's just.
Here's a guy who was 30-something with a 14-year-old. In a jurisdiction where the age of consent is already a low 16, as I understand it. Yep. But But here's the punchline. This guy's the DA.
Yeah.
He's putting people away for the very, right?
Well,
I mean, that's truly incredible.
Exactly. It's curious to me, and the only person who's actually mentioned it was Jost, the guys on Weekend Update, Saturday Night Live last night. They made a passing reference to the fact that it's essentially identical to what Kevin Spacey was accused with. I mean, the guy, Anthony Rapp, the guy was 14, right? Says, kind of a 14-year-old guy showing up at a party with a bunch of adults, right? Kind of, you got to be on your toes, right? Now, maybe 14-year-old, you don't have the preservation instincts, but I mean, Jesus, I don't know exactly what to think about that, but I mean, that's exactly the same situation with, I think, same age difference as well. 14-year-old girl, 14-year-old guy, 30-year-old guy, 30-year-old guy.
Okay, this is blown up sort of all of a sudden, sort of, not really. Is it Corey Feldman that's kind of blowing up a little bit, and this has been sort of building up to this, but we seem to be in this pivotal moment. I wonder how much money is floating around LA right now with people trying to, damage control. What if, is this the tip of the iceberg? Or is this the sort of the big part of the iceberg and it's going to die off?
You think that there's going to be, this is a flash in the pan and it's going to...
No, I think we're in a moment of this whole political, safe space and political correctness and gender neutrality. And I mean, it does seem to have built up to this crescendo. There's a lot. Like, if you can start filling up hands with scandals, that's unusual.
It is.
Yeah.
Now, what do you think? I was having this conversation last night that the first person that really seemed to have brought this to the fore was the 11 women who accused Donald Trump. And I'm thinking, how sad is it for them that they've got all this sound and fury and rage and public support for the people who came after them, right? Kind of maybe not so much.
I personally don't think they will suffer as a result of the spotlight not being off it, because I think if what I say is right, if this is actually a kind of thing we're going through, then every one of these scandals that comes out that gets attention creates this new set of rules. So as soon as anybody returns back to talking about Trump's accusers, it's now in a completely different forum and theater than it was when they first came out and were ignored.
But will they? That's the question.
It will.
Have they?
It will.
Has there been any settlement? I mean, at this point, it's been a couple months, and if nothing else can be said about the fiasco that is Donald Trump and his circus of
my
mayhem
suspicion,
and
Kevin, is that they're just biding their time. The more this builds up, they're going to just shoehorn on themselves, and all they need is one more accuser or one more angle on the story, and now they're pouring gasoline on a raging fire.
I hope so.
I think there's no way, because so many people want Trump's head. There's no way that story's going to disappear. I think people are biding their time.
But is there, you and I have talked about this before, I mean, there does not seem to be anything approximating the bottom for this. There does not seem to be like walls or a bottom to the depth to which he's willing to sink. We haven't reached bottom, so how can we stand up and move forward when we've not reached bottom? I mean, he's standing in front of at a podium in South Korea, talking about his kind of Oh, I love South Korea. What do I love about South Korea?
Golfing.
One of the things I like about South Korea is the lady golfers.
Yeah.
And we all know, where did we have the LPGA tournament last year? My beautiful Mar-a-Lago in Bedminster, New Jersey.
If I was chancellor, that'd be an indictable offense.
Yeah.
Using a public forum to promote a private enterprise. I'm gonna take a second.
All right, I'll stick my fingers in my other ear and hum.
This could be an opportunity for you to.
How about I sing King of the Road?
Okay.
Okay. Third boxcar, midnight train, destination Bangor, Maine.
Trailers for sale or rent, rooms to let 50 cents. No phone, no pool, no pets. Ain't got no cigarettes, but 2 hours of pushing broom buys an 8 12 4-bedroom. I'm a man of means, by no means king of the road. Third boxcar, midnight train, destination Bangor, Maine. Whoa, worn out suit and shoes. I don't pay no union dues. I smoke old stogies I have found. Short, but not too big around. I'm a man of means, by no means king of the road. I know every engineer on every train, all their children, all of their names, and every handout in every town. Every locked, it ain't locked when no one's around. I sing trailers for sale or rent, rooms to let 50 cents. No phone, no pool, no pets. I ain't got no cigarettes, but 2 hours of pushing broom buys an 8 by 12 4-bedroom. I'm a man of means, by no means king of the road. Trailers for sale or rent, rooms to let 50 cents. No phone, no pool, no pets. I ain't got no cigarettes, but 2 hours of pushing broom buys.
Man of means, by no means. Sing it with me, Dave. King of the road.
That was one of my karaoke songs.
Was it really? Yeah. When I feel properly, I guess energized, and I'm walking down the street, and I see people. I think I see people ahead of me, and they're not paying attention to the tap 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 of my cane. I'll sing. I'll either chant Nam Myoho Renge Kyo, or I will tap along and sing King of the Road, and they'll turn around and say, "Who the heck is?" And they'll see big guy with a white cane.
Did you do any karaoke?
I've done karaoke once.
Yeah.
20 years ago. So no, I think so much of that stuff depends on the crowd you're.
Oh well, there's a circuit.
Oh, I know. My roommate does karaoke every week in this bar down the street from where we all live, but it's his crowd, and I don't really kind of.
I think how it often works is that it's run by a person or entity, and there's a circuit, and there's Klingons who go follow that DJ or whatever from venue to venue, and they all claim, oh, we don't practice, but they've got like $9,000 worth of audio equipment at home, and they practice like it's their job.
There
And
was the first place that I got on my own.
Yeah.
Was a little, I guess, not what do you call it? A studio apartment, I guess, on Scadding, just Parliament and the Esplanade, south of, around St. Lawrence Market. Nice place, looking north. You can see the CN Tower, in Hudson's Bay. It was a great place. Had a balcony, and I loved it. But there was a tiny, adorable little, like 4'8" Filipina nursing assistant who lived in the apartment next to me, and she got a karaoke machine for her birthday or for Christmas or something, and she would sing Whitney Houston songs.
Wow.
All night long.
Was she any good?
Well, there's a point beyond which nothing is any good, right? You hear, kind of.
I was going to mention the circuit that I became aware of, that one of the regulars did Whitney Houston. I swear to God, better than Whitney Houston. Like, it was unbelievable. Some of these people are really, really talented.
Absolutely.
Another older gentleman, they all come from, I think they got the Legion to buy them an expensive setup. And
really?
They get tanked up before the actual karaoke show and do all their practicing and come down ready to fight. Incredible. All the songs they did, 8, 5, 7, 6, 309, and like Elvis
Jenny.
and all the classics, and just incredible.
Well, the little cadre of people who show up, at least that I hear of, at my place in the beaches, where James goes, they're largely, I think, musical community theater.
There you go.
Amateur communal theater people.
Wow.
So they have, kind of an untapped desire
Right.
to be performers. You can find our contact information, links mentioned on the show, and our past episodes at tmi.twxnet.com.
Okay. So take me. Deepest fear, public speaking. All right. To the point of like a disability, essentially. And so if you go and you watch these amazing performances, and then like just teachers, local janitors get up and like just torturously horrible, week after week, with no shame.
Yeah.
Eventually, you ask yourself, well, if they can do it, why can't I? And turn the clock forward 3 years, and I had about 7 regular tickets I'd hand in each week, and regularly humiliate myself, I'm sure, but force myself to do it, and would go into these like altered states where you're grinding your feet into the stage and you literally black out and only seem to come to when the song ends.
Wow.
And the crowd, or people would say, oh, that was, they wouldn't say anything. Or once in a while, I guess if I was drunk enough or they were drunk enough, it would have been an amazing performance.
Yeah.
But never remember a second of it. In sheer terror, the type of terror that's just unparalleled.
But see, what's the value in
And that's a high.
What's the percentage gain? I mean, is that a high though?
Oh,
if you're going
man.
up in terror and you don't remember, I
Oh,
mean,
man.
there's a catharsis.
Oh, wow. And the other thing is that if you ever went up and had a good time, like remembered it or remembered even working and, I got that note in real time,
Yeah.
those are your worst nights. You learn nothing. It would be those moments of sheer and utter terror that you got the most
Well, I can
excitement out of it. It's like sky jumping. But to these natural performers, it's just a venue for them to do what they have to do. But for someone like me, it's like climbing a mountain and staring over the edge.
Yeah. I can see the value of overcoming the challenge, kind of, I can't get up there, and getting up there and doing it, whether you black out or not. but I can't see the value in persistently doing it in a blackout state. That just doesn't make any sense to me. I mean, is the hope that one day you will, kind of emerge from that blackout state in mid-performance and realize that you're, kind of...
It's hard for me to imagine that there was a goal in mind. Like, I guess, because I was saying to you, if you get up and do it and, it's not an intense experience, you don't feel like you actually learned anything or gained anything from it. And what are you trying to gain, though? I guess you're trying to overcome a fear, and each time you do it, I guess you're hoping that the fear will be reduced. Because, right, real performers talk about stage fright. And the fact of the matter is that they're probably no good without the stage fright.
It's interesting, earlier in this call, we were talking about Christopher Cross. And there are two people I can think of whose career was horrifically and dramatically impacted by their stage fright. Christopher Cross was one of them. Andy Partridge from XTC was another person. They both were wonderful performers and good songwriters for their time and stuff, but terrified, paralytically terrified of public performances. And I think
one of the Stone Temple Pilots was a reserved character.
Really? Well, not the maybe the guy, who was the guy, the lead singer? I mean, he was so blasted. Maybe that's why he was so high all the time. You could tell. Yeah. I would imagine if the hope was, kind of every time you got up there and overcame the terror, you chipped away at this monolithic terror, and one day you'd be free of that.
No, because then you try songs you haven't done before. I think you keep upping the ante, right? Yeah, you didn't want the fear to go away because then it wasn't as exciting.
Oh, so you could have gone skydiving or IV drug abusing or kind of surfing or any number of things. I mean, kind of body modification, scarification, any number of these things.
I used to have a motorcycle. We used to race around, and the Mustang. And
in my altered dimension, in the alternate universe, Kevin Weber has a motorcycle.
Talked about abuse. He didn't really talk about what women should do. This is hard to weigh in on, but we, like, you pointed out this thing happened 15 years ago. There were grown women. They're professional comedians. He wasn't blocking the door. Why'd they wait till he finished?
Yeah, and what did they say? I mean, because to Nancy's point, I mean, when they said, and we didn't say no, or we didn't say yes, but what did you say? Did you say, oh, shucks, you're just joshing, or put that away?
Okay. All right. Now, I don't want to sound like I'm excusing male behavior, but that's what it is, male behavior, because until we start neutering our males, this is always going to be a problem. And you can, I guess, this is so stupid, I probably can't say any of this, but But you can punish them by, removing their contracts and public shaming and all that. But in the end, it's always going to be men who do 99% of the suicides, 99% of the murders, 99% of the rapes, 99% of the obscene and lewd actions. And the reality is, that's how, just have a cat that's not spayed or neutered, and you realize that sexuality is a huge part of the biology, and you can fight it all you want. In the end, really though, don't women have to toughen up? I know that puts all the responsibility for their action in response to this inappropriate behavior on women, but don't you want to be teaching your 14-year-old daughter that she has to stand up and object, fight, and not wait till the guy finishes and be a victim?
We're not saying teach your daughters to be able to take a punch.
Right.
We're teaching. I'm suggesting
and dish one out.
They need to be able to dish one out.
Right.
There was a woman I used to work with years ago at TD Bank, and she was she was extraordinarily voluptuous, hippie and busty, and extremely pulchritudinous, and she felt no compunction whatsoever about dressing in extremely tight and skimpy and what I refer to as club clothes, and she'd wear them to work, and she would leave work late. She'd work late. She worked in a department of the bank, reorg, that she sometimes would work late hours, and she would complain about not feeling safe, right? And I said, well, first of all, okay, if you want to dress like that, you have a responsibility for the impact you make in the world. It's not entirely my responsibility for not responding to the way that the energy you put out there. If you want to put out that information, that energy, you're entirely free, but be responsible for your own actions and be prepared to defend your right. And I don't agree with the idea that yes, I think that women should be allowed to dress in whatever fashion they want, but similarly it's legally you have the right to go topless in Toronto, but guess what happens if you go topless in Toronto? You're going to draw attention, and that sensibly is an unavoidable part of the equation. Similarly, if you dress provocatively, it's your right, absolutely, but you should be responsible for the energy that the energy that you create in the environment around you. It sounds ignorant. I can't.
It's hard to talk about this without sounding like you're justifying male privilege, essentially.
It's almost impossible to. But I mean, I have no inclination whatsoever to violently impose my will or my desire on another person.
Everything we say, trying to explain the way men are naturally, the truth about it that nobody seems to be able to actually write a book about for some reason. We don't talk about, well, actually those two comedians then wouldn't really be able to work with Louis C.K. in the years after that event. And even if they did, it would be pretty doubtful that would happen. I think there's a story about his manager trying to keep them quiet about it, but obviously they would be excluded from future projects. So the position of privilege and the impact that kind of incident has on the careers moving forward for women placed in those situations. I mean, in the Harvey Weinstein thing, half of them were worried about their careers moving forward as a result of...
With good reason, because he was a god emperor of Dune.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, there was a story I heard about him putting the boots to a reporter who asked a question that he didn't want asked of a a performer on a red carpet, right? He, actually kicked the shit out of a reporter in front of, other press. This is the kind of person who feels no compunction, not even the slightest compunction about imposing his will and his desire on anyone at any time. So, of course.
So there's an element to that in the CK thing.
Yeah.
As much as I'm trying to always... So I just want baskets and more Horace and Pete, and
Yeah,
I'm just
I
a
know.
big fan. So I really feel like I'm the victim, which is totally inappropriate. But let me run this by you. It's two guys in a comedy troupe, and Louis C.K. is a hot comedian in a position of influence. Like, there are no parallels
No, there aren't.
between men and women in that scenario.
You hear
And
about...
that is where half the problem starts, is that the male's ability to sympathize or even be empathetic. If you don't understand what the other person is experiencing, you can't empathize with them. LaToya? Was that her?
The nipple slip?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the nipple slip event, and she still hasn't been back on the
Yeah.
halftime.
No, you're
We
right.
can't even see our own bodies without feigning a faint.
Yeah. Being horrified.
And yet, you can machine gun or watch
Hundreds of people.
Yeah, but-
Hundreds of people. You can walk
No,
into a
I mean
church.
on TV. Right, all these shows, like we can't swear and we can't see our own bodies, but we can watch autopsy.
Yeah.
What are the shows? I can't even think. CSI and Law and Order and
You can
all that violence is okay because they're a warring culture, but we can't see our own bodies or say certain words.
You
I've
can-
never understood that.
you can chop off a breast or shoot a breast. You just can't caress it.
Right.
Yeah, and that's the puritanical. That's the Puritans that arrived, kind of at Plymouth Rock, and the United Empire Loyalists. I mean, that's the repression, that the stony ground of repression, sexual and social repression, that both our countries, Canada and the U.S., sprung from. I mean, if sex education was a part of our reality in public education, if you dealt with people's bodies, if you were comfortable with your body and you were informed about kind of the opposite sex and the way their bodies work, you wouldn't have these problems. You wouldn't have. I mean, I think a large part of this, a large percentage of the problem comes from repression. We're taught this idea of fear and loathing, and repression is instilled.
What if sex education in public schools, for example, covered the psychological differences? So I think this is a great example of that, where as soon as I replaced Louis C.K. with a hot female comedian, a powerful female comedian, and the two girls who came to his room with two male comedians of the same age, teaching kids how those situations affect men and women differently. I don't think that happens in
No,
grade 9 health class or grade 8 health class.
no,
Yeah.
not at all. I think it's the difference between naturopathic medicine and allopathic medicine. You're teaching in Western allopathic medicine, you treat the symptoms. You treat you get a rash, you give them a topical ointment to put on the rash, as opposed to trying to find the systemic causes of that rash.
Yeah.
And I think it's pretty easy to see that we need to be a whole lot more comfortable with ourselves and our sexual selves before we can become comfortable in company, so to speak.
If this is happening in politics and in Hollywood, Just imagine what happens on Bay Street every single day.
I've spent some time on Bay Street, and it's similar it's almost identical in the sense that you've got people in positions of power that have control, unbridled control over access to situations that other people want, whether it be celebrity or the opportunity to make hundreds of thousands of dollars. Right? They've got the keys to the highway, and they are the ones who they probably went through an initiation process of denigration and humiliation and doing things that were demeaning and humiliating for the possibility of being in a position to do the same things to other people. Anyway.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Kevin.
No problem. Have a good Sunday, and I'll talk to you when I talk to you, okay?
We'll do this again soon.
All right.
Bye.
Adios.
I'm Dave Archer from Toronto.
And I'm Kevin Weber from the Beaches.